Ah, yes, come in. Our featured presentation is about to start. You have entered into cult cinema with the dastardly evil Cheese Film and my partner in crime, Hecubus. This is the Grindhouse Podcast. We're coming to get you, Barbara.
Welcome back to the Grindhouse Podcast. I am your host, Cheese Film.
And I am Hecubus.
And this is one of cinema's greatest movies of all time.
According to the American Film Institute, it is the greatest film of all time. American film of all time.
American film of all time. You know, I would go as far as to say it just in general.
What's it called?
Well, I'll get there. See, I don't think I've ever seen a foreign film that compares quite to this.
I definitely have not.
And so I think the title of greatest film of all time would go to the one and only Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is 1941 drama starring and directed by Orson Welles.
Orson Welles, his first movie. And it
was
also
his
stars
first
Joseph
movie?
Cotton. Yeah, this is, all right, listen. Orson Welles was a big deal on Broadway, in New York, Broadway. And then he did the War of the Worlds radio
show
thing that freaked everybody out. So Hollywood, RKO Pictures, gave him carte blanche. They said, come here, make a movie, do whatever you want. So he brought a lot of his Mercury Theater people out to Hollywood, didn't know what he was going to do, ended up writing this Citizen Kane, which Charles Foster Kane is loosely based on William Randolph Hearst, a newspaper magnate of the early 20th century. And he didn't know how to make a movie. He's 25 years old.
He's 25 years old.
Yeah, so when you hear about he's a wonderkind and a genius and all this stuff, when he was doing stuff on Broadway, he was 21. And then a lot of Shakespeare stuff. When he got to do this Hollywood stuff, he was only 25 when he made Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
So he wrote it with Joseph Mankiewicz?
Yes.
I can't see it there.
Mankiewicz.
It is Mankiewicz. And there's a whole movie worth of making this movie as the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know what, and like I said, he didn't know what he was going to do, and he just did whatever he thought he could do.
Yeah,
and that's where this comes from.
And it really goes to show just how powerful of a film this is. That,
it does. It's almost 100 years old.
Almost 100 years later, it's still talked about. It's still studied.
Yep.
It's still as popular
revered
as it was in the 50s.
You know what? I'm glad you said that now, because I'm like, when am I going to work this in? It did not do good when it first came out.
It bombed when it first came out.
So what does that make it? We're still talking about it today, but it was a bomb then.
It's a cult classic. Which is funny that a movie of this caliber, this movie bombed. It got a bunch of Academy Awards, and when they were nominating the awards, and they said, well, for Best Picture, Citizen Kane, they booed. Nobody at the time liked or appreciated this movie.
They really didn't.
I find that to be hysterical.
Yeah.
Because it went on to be known as the greatest American movie of all time. The only thing really competing with it is like The Godfather. You know, nothing else has ever gotten that status.
I think you're right.
You know what I mean?
that's true. The Godfather is pretty prestigious like this. Let me tell you something. William Randolph Hearst, who ran, it was like he had a ton of newspapers, and no Hearst publication has ever even mentioned Citizen Kane ever to this day, I think. And I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Do you think it's intentional?
Oh, it's absolutely intentional. And it might have had something to do with the box office not being so good, because I don't think they even reviewed it back then in the newspapers. So it would have gotten a lot less
publicity.
We got newspapers and radio, and that's it for publicity. And newsreels, but you got to go to the movies to see newsreels, and you're going to see a poster for Citizen Kane if you go to the movies. So it's not, that doesn't really count.
Right.
But yeah, to this day, no Hearst publication will mention Citizen Kane. And there's some more things about that I'll get into later. Well, one specifically.
I thought this movie sucked.
Get out of here.
Whoa, bad take.
You know, I think a lot of it gets hate nowadays from young people like us.
Yeah.
Young.
Him.
Because look, we're going out of order. I wanted to see it because of all the hype about it.
Yeah.
Now, why is this the best movie ever? Blah blah blah. And I wasn't cynical walking into it, but I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, really? Well,
is this going to be better than Avengers Endgame?" You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because a lot of people who are watching this aren't taking into a fact of like A, what makes it the greatest movie, and B, how it has changed the landscape for real. Like
Yeah.
I know I say this a lot, like well, this is the first time when they did that, and this. Well, this is the first time they did a whole bunch of stuff.
And it's definitely the first time they did all of it together.
All of it together. Like, because you've got, I call it shot composition, but when you've got an image in the forefront that's in perfect.
Yeah, it's more cinematography, but you're right. I agree with shot composition.
Yeah, well, you've got this in perfect, what's the word?
Focus.
Focus. But then you've got stuff in the background that's also in perfect focus.
Right, deep focus.
Which isn't, easy to do on a single lens, period. A lot of times when you see it, it's rotoscope. So you got one shot in focus,
right,
and that's blurred, and then you shoot it again, reversed,
right,
and then you cut this one out and you put it over that one,
right,
and that's how you get that. They don't have that technology here. Well, they did literally, but then they don't all the time. Like in the party when he's what was he going to war with Spain?
Yeah, right.
And they're having that giant party for him.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and they're sitting down laughing, watching the dancers and all that. They're all in focus. He's all in focus, and it's shot to where it looks like they cut him out and put him in front.
Right.
But then they pull him into the dancing too. That stuff isn't easy to do. That stuff isn't really seen. If everything's in focus, it's usually a wide shot, not this close.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah,
how
like
things like that are.
That one I had you put up there. What did you call it for Randy Official?
Which one?
The one with where he's a kid and he's in the window.
Yeah. So when the mother's signing the documents,
and it's
all in focus.
But it's all in focus, and it's 3 different stories going on in one picture at the same time. You have the business section up front, then the dad who doesn't want to let the son go, Kane go, and then far in the background, literally outside in a frame, is the person that they're talking about and has no idea what there's going on.
And has no say.
And that's the kind of the theme and his motivation, that he's never going to be not in charge of his destiny.
Right.
And he's literally outside in the snow.
See, I always thought the theme of this movie was
there's a lot of themes in this movie.
Well, it's like all the glitters are never gold.
That too.
So like he's the man who basically had everything, but dies.
He achieves everything.
He achieves everything, but he doesn't get. He doesn't own anything. Everything's just kind of either given to him, or he just because he has a lot of money, he's able to do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Which he didn't get. He inherited. And he put that and you see that money doesn't mean anything to him because he just spends it everywhere.
Yeah.
He spends it on statues or a giant house that's empty all the time.
Not Kubla Khan.
Kubla
Khan. Yeah. No, it's Xanadu. The poem is called Kubla Khan.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that, even that, it's the newsreel guy narrating that he named his gigantic mansion Xanadu, which is Xanadu is an ice fortress where you could live forever, but you're totally alone.
Yeah.
In the poem. And that he even calls it Xanadu. You know what I mean?
He gets
even the interior of the house, when you see it, it's like it's
a lot
empty.
of huge
a
rooms.
lot of huge rooms. And then what's his second wife or with his wife making puzzles in the corner of the shot with just all that emptiness.
Yeah. Oh my God. Listen. So with his first wife. He first falls in love with his first wife. They live in a kind of a modest house.
Do they fall in love?
Well, they do at the beginning.
Okay.
And he's sitting at this end of the table. She's sitting at this end of the table.
And even that.
And they do the fades in and out to show time as, oh, well, I'm not going in. They can do it without me. The news will be there tomorrow.
Right.
To, well, I feel like you're in love with the news. To, I wish it was a human being that you were leaving me for.
Right.
To just silence.
Yeah.
On the other end of the table, the distance grows, and you see it grow artistically too.
Right.
It's done superbly for being his first movie too,
because he didn't know what he was going to do, so he didn't know what he couldn't do,
right?
And what wasn't okay.
Oh my god! And like we brought up the scene earlier with the kid in the background.
Yep.
With them signing the papers, that shot starts inside the house in the window as he's yelling.
That too.
We pull back, and then we pull back, and then we move down here.
Yeah.
Past the dad. Back more past the businessman.
The table too,
and then sit here on the table as they're doing the paperwork. Never had been
flawless.
Done before.
Never. Yeah, the camera moving is absolutely new. I think to this movie. I think that was the first time that they had a motion camera instead of just a static camera, and then people do things.
Right. 1941.
Yeah, 1941.
Well, like you'd go back to like the silent films. I think Buster Keaton. He's holds onto the trolley and it whips him, and we're following the trolley, but the camera's on another thing, moving at the same speed. Right. This isn't doing that. The camera is on what we now use as like dollies and gimbals.
Right.
To move through just this space. The shot isn't.
The shot isn't motion.
Right.
But the camera does move.
Right.
Or you know what I mean?
And it's spectacular.
It is spectacular.
Every time they do it. And it's crazy to see. Like they do it twice, and I love pointing it out when the camera arcs up through the sign. It's raining. There's goes through the window and into the house.
Right.
Beautiful.
And doesn't it start when she's younger, and by the time it goes in, doesn't it show a progression of time too? Or her emotions? Yeah, from where she was at the beginning of the shot to where she is at the end of the shot, which is a length of time later. Yeah. And she's like disillusioned and not happy anymore. Brilliant.
Beautiful.
Great idea.
Oh,
Great
Lord.
idea.
But yeah, I've got notes on this. That we had a whole structure that we're supposed to stick to. We totally
started
fanning about it.
So we got deep focus. Oh, the lighting.
Yes.
A lot of black and white stuff is shot phenomenally.
Yeah.
With just what you can't see and what you can see. And he really did. Obviously, they were lighting movies before this movie.
Right, yeah.
But the way they do it in this movie is just brilliant.
So we have an example of the lighting that I would like to point out because I think it's the newsroom.
I think so, too.
And you've got these heavy backlights that are casting, like, arcs in. And then the people are... It's not even that they're just shadowed out or silhouette, because you see that a lot in noir films.
Right.
It's that it's like ambient glow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's so soft.
Very soft.
Because he's over the table like this, and it's so soft on this half of the body, but then pitch black on the face. The guy investigating his last words... I don't think you ever see his face. It's always from behind.
Maybe at that very, very, very end when he's like, "We'll never know."
Yeah.
I think you see his face there, but for the most part, do not.
It's always shot behind because it doesn't matter.
He's us actually. He's the audience
filling in what's going on, and it's lit in a way, and it feels in such a way that's like mystical, like you're watching.
Yeah.
Something you've never seen before.
Yes.
And being somebody who has seen it all in the 21st century, going back to this movie where it's just now getting its legs, it's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
Like you watch Endgame and it's like, all right, yeah, okay, I see how they do this, and that. Then you watch this. where the dinosaur was hatching, and you're like, oh my God, look at where we are, where we
Right.
came from, and why does this look like that, and how come this looks like this? It's insane. It's beautiful.
It is.
And this movie's such a testament to filmmaking and art in general. It's so solid.
It is.
I have nothing but positive things to say about it.
Me too. I don't have anything negative to say about it. And I think the people that do have negative things to say about it are full of crap. Anyway, you remember not too long ago I said that it was about 12 Monkeys. It's a movie. It's like,
Yeah.
A guy was just watching Megalopolis, the Francis Ford Coppola movie, said that that's the most movie I have ever seen. That's what I'm talking about. And this is one of them. It's a movie. It's things that you could not happen anywhere else. Like on radio, this isn't going to work. In print, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
but in
I
film,
100%.
that's where the artwork of it is.
Yeah.
And this is the most movie. Not I don't know if I've ever seen, but that's what I'm talking about.
This
is 100% that.
And it works so well.
It does so well.
I'm so impressed. Talk about a first outing.
Right.
Really.
And I always tell your mother, it's the Beatles of film. She don't like it anyway.
I watched it with my fiance, and it was her first time seeing it. It was my second, third time seeing it. I haven't watched this movie a whole lot, but I'll never turn it down.
No, it's good.
My first reaction when I ever saw this movie was like, because everybody says it's boring.
Yeah.
That's the biggest criticism of this movie, that's boring. I thought, this isn't boring.
I don't think it's boring
I got
at all.
sucked into it immediately.
I don't know how it can be boring. The way it weaves around, it's like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it's an unbroken, broken storytelling.
Yeah, it totally is.
Non-linear.
And it's not confusing
No.
either.
And you know what I really like about it too is that it's like 3 segments of people telling the life of Kane.
Like through interviews
Yeah.
with people that he knew.
And you have the first one where it's because you knew him as a boy and up to
Right.
the day he died. Then the second guy who was somebody hired on to be a kind of a buddy up until he got fired or whatever. Or up until Kane died. And then his business partner in there too. And each one will break up. So like, youth, young guy, older guy, old guy. But then he only knows this part of the story, so he only tells this part of the story.
Exactly.
You go, this other guy, he fills in this part of the story, which is it's like building a forensic scene. Everything's told you in bits, but the bits line up perfectly to where you follow the whole story.
They're
by the
puzzle
end.
pieces.
It's a jigsaw puzzle.
Right. And I think that's why they use a lot of jigsaw puzzles in them visually.
Uh-huh.
But there's that one piece that they're looking for. Why did he say that at the end? And they never get it. And that's so cool.
I love that it has like an unresolved ending.
It doesn't have an unresolved ending. It's totally resolved.
Well, they don't know.
They don't know, but we do.
Well, we know because,
that's
even
what I
then
mean
it's
by
up to-
resolution.
Well, yeah, but what I'm talking about is like they don't. All right, well, we don't know. It's still a mystery. And the cycle continues. But even when we find out the meaning of Rosebud,
Right.
it's still we can discuss it.
Yeah. Oh,
We can
right. You don't know
just-
why the audience, meaning we don't know why he said
Right.
that, and everybody can have their own idea about it.
What a great genius way to do that. Well, should we tell them what Rosebud is?
Well, let me tell you what it really is.
Oh,
I'm
William
pulling up
Randolph-
Rosebud.
What?
I'm pulling up Rosebud.
well, hang on.
Well-
if he's gonna give you I've got a picture of it.
Yeah. Do you want to spoil it? Because a lot of people still haven't seen this movie because they take it for granted.
I haven't seen it.
Well, so there's a story I want to tell.
Up and down.
It's
All right,
movie
screw
from
it. You want to tell a
1941.
story, then we'll go ahead and spoil it. But what Rosebud really is, and this is another reason why William Randolph Hearst hated him so much, somehow Orson Welles found out that that's what Hearst called his mistress's private parts.
Oh my
So now
God.
the first and last thing you see in that movie is a real F you to him.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is insane.
It is insane. And I highly recommend you see RKO 231, I think it's called. Just look up RKO and then that movie come up. Schreiber plays
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles, and it's about the making of Citizen Kane, and even like Mank. I haven't seen Mank yet
I've heard a lot of good things about Mank.
because it's David Fincher made it, so I want to see it. There's a lot of controversy with the movie, other than William Randolph Hearst, like Orson Welles taking credit for stuff that he shouldn't be taking credit for, and not giving. But they go into that and all that stuff in RKO 231 too. It was pretty interesting, and I love David Fincher, who was obviously
A big
influenced by this movie and that Mank movie. I would like to see that too. But go ahead with your story.
So, before I ever even saw this movie, I had it spoiled for me in the form of a cartoon.
I didn't,
Well, good, yeah.
but go ahead.
In the form of a cartoon. So, if Randy will pull up, there's a picture of Ghost Kane, I think it's called.
Is it from The Simpsons?
It's from the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, really?
They get a call that there's a ghost haunting this house, and all the ghost says is Rosebud. As all this ghost is saying, and it's really freaky looking. And he's possessing weird,
I remember
like the
this
Sphinx.
episode.
And these,
Yeah, I've never seen it.
and it's the ghost of they call it the character's name,
Charles Foster Kane.
Yeah. The whole time they're investigating it, and they're trying to figure out what he wants. They can't catch him. And at the very end, he gets the ghost of Rosebud.
Oh, really?
And he sleds off with it, or flies off with it. And that's the end of it. They don't really bust him. He just goes away.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then putting things together, I was like, oh my God, this is the unofficial sequel to Citizen Kane.
Yeah, really.
It's so cool.
It's a Saturday morning cartoon.
So Rosebud is his childhood sled.
Right. It was the last
well-
thing he loved.
Yeah.
And for real, that's what I say. And you see him playing with it at the very beginning of the movie. That's the first word they say. He dies at the very
The
start
beginning
of the movie, and he says Rosebud in an extreme close-up of his mouth, which is another thing that was brand new.
Right.
And, then they don't mention it, none of it, for the rest of the movie.
They don't even when he's
And
a
then
kid.
at the very end, even when he's a kid, but until the very
They're throwing
end,
it
they
in the
burn
fire.
it, yeah.
So you said it's the last thing he ever loved. I always thought it was the last time he would ever be innocent.
Or happy.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
when his life was great. He had his mother and his father.
Mhm.
His life was simple. This was it, and he'll never get that again.
And yeah.
And he never
it gets
did.
burned. Yeah.
And then it's gone. It's gone just
It's
like
gone
that.
forever. It's kind of tragic, and it's really not that important to the movie.
Yeah.
It's just another cool thing I think about it. But I just think maybe it is a little bit more important if you think about it in those terms, like that his innocence is gone, and
Yeah.
then the rest of the world that he wants to be on top of burns it and just gets rid of it all.
So I got some highlights written down here. I said, what we've been talking about, the lighting of this movie is amazing. If you're gonna watch this movie for anything, I'd say the cinematography and the lighting.
Yeah,
You can watch this movie on mute, and it's a whole story on its own.
sure. You probably pretty much get it too.
And it's just it's amazing.
There's uses a lot of long takes too,
a lot of long takes,
which
a lot of
is
unbroken
kind of an
takes.
Orson Welles thing. Did you ever see Touch of Evil?
No, I want to. Though,
You're
so
gonna,
bad.
you have to. There's no reason. Cheese Film is a big film noir guy,
He
and
is.
that is like the mother of film noir.
Yeah.
It's got Charlton Heston, and he's supposed to be a Mexican guy because it takes place at the border, and he's got brown makeup on. It's a black and white movie, but you could tell he's supposed to be darker.
Oh.
It's terrible. But at the very beginning, there's like might be 2 minutes. It's more than a minute long take. It's very Hitchcockian.
Is this with the bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay,
I've
so you know
seen
what I'm
that
talking
scene,
about.
yeah.
But I mean, that's a longer take than
Well, it's a whole
anything in
I
here.
think it's like 10 minutes long.
It ain't 10 minutes, but it might be 4.
Or maybe it's
It's
4. Yeah, it's not
minutes
10 minutes
long,
long.
and
It's
it-
minutes long.
Most takes are
Seconds.
seconds.
At least 5 to 7 seconds is
Yeah.
your takes, and
And
to
that-
have it
it's,
to be
and it's really good too, and it really
Oh, yeah.
heightens the tension too, because you're like in real time. When's it gonna blow up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
it-
movie.
you
Touch of Evil.
Follow the whole thing, goes in the trunk, and then The part at the end with the crane shot where it comes up over
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Love that. He loved cranes because there's a whole bunch of crane shots in this.
Yeah, there are.
Uh,
Plus, okay, there's another thing we can talk about. There's overhead shots, like to purposely make him look smaller.
yeah.
And then the undershots that I'm sure everybody knows, they started, like, you never saw the ceilings in films before this movie. And then where they had to dig a hole, literally,
To
through
put
the
this
set
camera
to
down.
put the camera down low enough to get that angle to make him look larger than life. He did a lot of stuff, and it was all on purpose, and I think that's why he deserves to be the number one
Oh, yeah.
AFI movie ever.
Another couple cool things of trivia here. So, in the scene, I've got a photo of this too, where Kane's giving a speech at his rally.
Yeah, that's great. He looks larger than life there
He's
too.
huge, and he's got the giant background, which I think
It's
is
all
referenced
him.
in Batman when Harvey
Sure, I
Dent
get you what you're
gives that
saying.
thing.
Yeah,
Very similar to that.
the Harvey Dent you're talking about.
Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams. Harvey
Yeah,
Dent, yeah.
that, if you like, they kind of look the same.
Yeah, they do because the podium's there. He's talking and his
There's a giant
yeah.
picture behind him.
Really,
So
I wouldn't think Tim Burton would think this would.
you know what's funny? I found this out about Tim Burton. One of his favorite movies was Dracula A.D. 1972.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, but so in that shot,
Right.
he's standing in front of an audience. He's giving this
Yep.
giant speech about how he's going to take down the governor and
He's
lock
got
him
so
up.
much charm too.
He does.
Go ahead.
Those people weren't real. That was a stock photo with holes popped in it, with a light moving back and forth to make it look like motion.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wow, I didn't know that
looking at it,
either.
I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I was impressed. I
guy
looked
was a
up fun facts
genius.
about this movie, and that was one of them. I was like,
Wow.
what?
Wow.
Yeah.
He only made 13 movies. He only made 13 theatrical movies because he did do other stuff because he's an indie filmmaker. Because he didn't
How
want to
nuts
have
is
to, huh?
How nuts is that?
Yeah, really, back then. But like I've seen a few of them, and they're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good, and I want to see F for Fake, which I've been doing. I told you I used to go to the rent a video.
Uh-huh.
I'll get it in some other time. This is one of them. I'm going to end up watching it, but it's a documentary, and I think it's going to be like the Citizen Kane of documentaries,
Oh,
basically.
wow.
Yeah, like inside stuff, and he is a genius.
He really is. Another little bit of trivia is that he had a non-interference deal with the studio who made this movie.
RKO.
RKO. So that he could do whatever he needed to do.
Right. Oh yeah, they didn't care either.
But they showed up a
Yeah,
lot and
they
tried to give him pointers and critiques, and he didn't like it. To the point where when they would show up, they would stop filming and go play softball until
yeah.
they left.
Right.
And they just kept doing that until they stopped showing up. Or the first 6 weeks of filming, they told them that they were doing rehearsal, so nobody would come watch the
Oh,
fact that they
that's
were
good.
actually filming things.
Here's another thing. Like in the very beginning of shooting it, they were talking about he would do lighting and stuff for their plays, so he knows about it. And he was talking to the lighting people about it, and the grips and stuff. And they were like, "Well, that's I forgot the cinematographer's name. His job."
Yeah.
Then, like the producer or something came up to him and said, "Don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever try to tell him what." The director, what he needs for the shot, and then everything was pretty cool after that. Shoot, I forgot what I was going to say.
This film also opens up with
Oh.
the title card.
Yeah,
Citizen Kane. No starring, no nothing like that, which was unprecedented.
yeah,
Films in this time were very much about getting your stars in there, getting
right.
those names on the board.
Names and butts in the seats.
Yeah. This movie did not do that, and that would carry on to modern day as the presidents. Now it's weird when you've got those big names
Yeah,
and not just the title card.
right. Or I like when, like Star Wars, there's none of that at the beginning.
They just get right into it.
Yeah, I like when they do that too.
And Star Wars was a trendsetter with that too. Nothing like that happened before.
Let me tell you something about Orson Welles. He narrates the History of the World Part 1.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks paid him $25,000 to be the narrator for it. He thought you come in 9 to 5, will work for a week, and that's what he did it in 2 hours. He could have paid him $5,000 for one day's work. So then he asked him, "What are you going to spend your money on?" He's like, Dom Perignon and caviar.
Orson Welles. Listen, we've been talking about this movie for like 30 minutes now.
Yeah.
Not even talking about the plot, just about
Yeah.
its weight on history, how it influenced everything, and what it did. But Orson Welles, after his mighty career, went on to not be so popular either. He was in a lot of wine commercials and stuff like that. I guess he owed, I don't remember the guy's name, but he owed money to somebody. And he's like, "Oh, I used $5,000. How much do I owe you?" And he's like, "Another $30,000." So he gave him his car.
That's
It
awesome.
was like Bentley or something. He's like, "There you go.
Yeah.
Now we're settled."
Yeah, he was a pretty eccentric guy.
He was a very and
smart as a whip.
he's just man, it's so fascinating to see the legacy of a film like this. It's
Yeah, it
just
is.
insane.
I
Because
definitely give it a thumbs up.
a 2 thumbs up for me. Very much 2 thumbs up. But I don't really think I had any plot points to hit on. Really.
I just wrote on the plot. Is basically he dies, and he says Rosebud. That's his last word that nobody hears.
Yeah,
by the way.
I don't know why.
So
they know
how
that.
does the reporter know to go finding that anyway? I don't think that. I think that's just a mistake. Anyway, that the whole story is this reporter trying to find out what his last word means, and he talks to people that knew him throughout different parts of his life, and that's what it is. And then at the end, you find out what Rosebud is,
Yeah.
and it's a good time.
So if you were to improve anything with this movie, what would you improve?
I wouldn't prove anything.
Nothing at all.
No, did I say that he brought Mercury Theater actors with him?
Yes.
So everybody has a good rapport. Everybody brings their A game, acting wise. The camera work, the lighting, and the overall direction, everything. I wouldn't change a thing.
I was thinking about this because it is Citizen Kane. So what do you change about Citizen Kane? Well, I think the only thing I would change, and this might even impact the story in a negative way, is I would film this in IMAX or Panavision. You would get that huge shot, 70 millimeter,
Right.
Hateful Eight type of filmography, because I feel like this movie is that encompassing.
Right.
It's that big, and he's that bombastic of a character. So like in some of the flashbacks, maybe shoot it with just your standard
Right.
aspect ratio, but
Like
then
Christopher Nolan does.
yes, and then but when it's big, and
Right.
really, that's the only thing.
That's just presentation though. That's not because you could do that.
You could.
If you could get the rights to Citizen Kane, you could release it in IMAX and do exactly what you just said. So you're not really changing the movie.
No, but
just the presentation of
If I
it.
had to change anything, I would shoot it. I would shoot it in IMAX.
Right. Oh, well.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of because that's how good this movie is.
Yeah. And there was no such thing as
If you
IMAX.
put this movie in color, would it change your opinion?
Absolutely. It has to be in black and white
Yeah, I think I agree with
because
that.
of the way it's lit. It was
Yeah.
lit for black and white, which is a thing. And
Which
it
a lot of
would
people don't
ruin
get.
it. Yeah.
A lot of people just take a colored movie and put it in monotone. And
Yeah.
there
What
you
about
go, it doesn't
Technicolor?
work. Well, so,
You're just kind of saying words.
it would end up hurting it more than it would feel.
Yeah, it would be. It would hurt
Yeah.
it more than it would
Yeah.
ever help.
I've got a photo saved of Kane clapping. People will. I want to see Randy, if you recognize what that looks like. So when you see this picture of Kane
yeah, I
clapping,
never heard we talked about it earlier, and I didn't know what you were talking about until you showed me side by side, and that
it does
very cool, and it's very influential.
Yeah, that's. What is it, Tom?
Is this the Shia LaBeouf thing?
Yeah, that Shia LaBeouf got it from this. But like that, it's a scene in the movie where he's watching his wife
Right.
poorly sing opera,
Right.
and he
Well, seeing that too, he was forcing his self in into her life, and she
Yeah.
was not capable of singing like that. She didn't want to sing like that, and he made her sing like that. She's not as ambitious as he is.
No.
You know what I mean? She's a different person, and he tried molding her into him,
Yeah. and
like
it just
doing
didn't
his life
work.
again because she's so much younger than him, and it doesn't work.
Millions
Millions of things you could just pick out of this. It's great.
There's when I noticed this when I was watching it, this I think might be the last thing I have to say about Citizen Kane for this. But this movie came out in 1941,
41.
which means it was shot in either 1939 to 35. You know, it had a couple years to film. Sure.
No, I don't think so.
You
I
think it
think
was-
they started in 39 or 40 at the latest,
okay.
and
so
then got it done. Yeah, he was on a timetable too.
there is video of Hitler in this movie. Hitler was alive
Yeah.
during this time.
Right.
And they bash him. They're not like, oh, yeah, he's pro-Hitler.
Yeah, right.
They call him a fascist. They call him a communist. And he says, the only thing I've ever been is an American. Which I think I love. I also, oh my God, I'm going to talk us over. I love how this movie starts with like if you went to see the news in the movie theater.
Yeah, a newsreel
That's
like
how
that.
it starts.
Yeah.
Or a silent film where you've got like a montage of stuff happening and then it cuts to what they're saying because I don't have the audio
Right.
video aspect. And then it cuts back to more footage and stuff like that, or just narration over stuff. It's authentic. It's authentic to the times, and that's so cool that it's real. It just feels real. Feels like a fantasy movie.
Right, and everything is fantastical to bring reality
Yeah.
to life.
I also think it's kind of funny, maybe getting a little political here. He's very much kind of like Donald Trump is. He's a
Kinda, yeah.
bombastic,
Yeah,
charming guy who gets a lot of people to follow him, even though he might not
he's only serving
be a
himself.
good guy. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
self-serving icon.
Yeah.
Not to get too political.
And I'm sure Donald Trump did not model his entire life over Charles Foster Kane.
I doubt it.
It's just weird that almost 100 years later, that life is imitating art.
Yeah, or like when he's giving his rally, he's like, "I'm going to lock him up. He's going to do jail time." That's what he campaigned against Hillary for. We're going to lock her
Right.
up. That's all. That's
Yeah.
It mirrored it.
The
It's
more
kinda
things
cool.
change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
That's my last take on Citizen Kane. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Man, it's such. I will never not recommend this movie. to
No,
people.
it's great. It is my.
Go out there and watch it. It is.
I don't know. It's not my favorite movie of all time. Is The Empire Strikes Back, but this is the best movie I've ever made.
Yeah, like there's a difference between a personal,
Yeah, it's personal.
like, and just what you've got to give it. Because like people, you don't personally like the Beatles,
right.
I do, but
You can't
have
deny
to-
their
influence,
and importance.
yeah, and that's this movie.
Yeah, it is.
This,
It is.
it's a must watch. It's a 10 out of 10. Either if you love film or if you love art, check it out because it's that good.
It is that good.
This is a movie everybody should watch at least once.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got to say about it. Any closing thoughts or anything like
The more
that?
things change, the more they stay the same.
I've been called many things, but the thing I am is American. I think that's a great
That's
line.
a great line.
What about you, Randy? You gonna check it out?
I did check it out.
Which one did you like? Did
I
you
watched
watch
the
it or not?
Ghostbusters. No. I would check this out. As someone who has not genuinely seen it, I would check it out. It's interesting. I'm normally put off by the black and white, but the story wise, it does sound cool.
It'll hold
It's
your
good.
attention.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's really
the-
good at holding attention.
strongest at non-linear storytelling, but because I didn't get Pulp Fiction, but I only watched it once.
It's
I
not
wasn't paying
like
attention.
that. It's not as non-linear as that is.
Okay.
Each segment has a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
But each segment also fits into the last one really well.
No, the way you're saying it, I understand what you were going for. But then you referenced Pulp Fiction when I thought of that. No, I didn't really get that movie. I understand it, but I didn't like. Well, at the time, I wasn't paying attention. So
Well,
pay attention because Pulp Fiction is up there too. Pulp Fiction is the second best movie ever made. But yeah, I have been Cheese Film.
And Hecubus.
And this has been the Grindhouse Podcast.